In this video, we're going to be going over the best 20 attachments you could put on any Vanguard weapon and perform extremely well with. If you enjoy videos like this or any other Vanguard content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we're trying to reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers, and click the link in the description down below and subscribe to our main channel. We have posted tons of content over there as well when it comes to the stats of these weapons. So before we get into the details of this video, I do want to mention a couple of different things first of all. So like I said, these attachments can be used on pretty much any weapon across the board and it should still work very well. We have skipped out certain categories though. The reason why we skipped them out is because they're completely different depending on what weapon it is you use. And if you want to see a more kind of in-depth breakdown, make sure you sub to our main channel. We're going to be going over like all of the ones that have specific attachment types. But when it comes to the attachments we skipped out here were barrels, because the barrels are very different depending on what weapon it is you're using, or a sniper rifle for example. Stock attachments we skipped over as well, because again with the stock attachments, you're really going to need to fine tune this attachment to kind of what kind of weapon it is you're using. So if you're using an SMG, you might want a bit more movement speed. If you're using an assault rifle, you might want slightly better recoil control, which is what some of these attachments can give you. So like I said, that's going to vary. And then we also skipped over the magazine attachments, which we covered way more in detail on our main channel. So if you want to go and check out how each of these magazine attachments affects damage, TTK, and all that kind of stuff, check out our main channel videos. We've got all of the attachments on there now. So having said that, now let's get on into the 15 best attachments. So first of all, let's start off with muzzles. Now, what are the best muzzle options? So first of all, we have the Mercury silencer. This is going to be available for most weapons inside this game, or there is usually an equivalent for this. So what you're looking for is sound suppression as well as recoil control and a con to damage range. And as you can see here, it helps with your recoil a little bit. So it's 4.8% on your vertical recoil, 1.2% on the horizontal. But conning damage range inside multiplayer isn't too much of a con, to be completely honest. So definitely a solid attachment that I can recommend using for pretty much any weapon, especially if you do want to stay suppressed inside this game. The next one I would recommend is the stabilizer. Now the stabilizer is a solid attachment as well. Again, it's going to give you accuracy. Now if you've watched any videos now, most of them will tell you that Vanguard has bloom for weapons like SMGs, assault rifles, and LMGs have it too, but not quite as much. So if you are finding that you're missing a lot of your shots and it's for no fault of your own, it's probably because the accuracy on your weapon is not very good, and the stabilizer is going to help out a ton with that. So next, we're moving on to underbarrels now, and again there's two underbarrels that I think are actually the best and would work for most of the weapons inside this game. So the first one is actually one of the first you unlock, which is the Carver foregrip. Now the reason why this is so handy is because you do get recoil control, you get a slight con to ADS time, which isn't massive as you can see here, and this is kind of the same for most of the weapons that you get the Carver foregrip on, but it does help out a ton with recoil, and it also gives you some hipfire accuracy, and that's going to make it really useful for assault rifles, LMGs, and also SMGs, because you do get the hipfire accuracy there as well. So it doesn't matter kind of which way you're trying to build your weapon, whether it's close range or long range, this attachment will help out for the most part. Obviously you do get that slight con ADS, but like I said, it's not massive. And then the other one that is going to be the absolute best for kind of like long range, for example, would be the M1 hand stop underbarrel grip, and that's because it's going to help with that bloom, like I said, so it's going to give you that accuracy, but it's also going to help with your recoil control too. So overall, it's going to give you a lot more control over your weapon. Let's move on into ammo types now, because you pretty much get the same ammo types for every single weapon in this game. This doesn't really change all that much. So a couple that I do think are really important. First of all, I do think hollow point is an amazing option. Now it does con your damage range, but again, like I said, it's not really too important for multiplayer. But what it does do is it increases your limb damage, so you're more likely to get that overall same damage profile that you would get if you're landing a chest shot. Now it might not be exactly the same, but it's going to give you a more consistent TTK inside this game. And considering how fast this game kills, if you're landing limb shots or you've not got very good aim, especially down to that bloom aspect to the game as well, you definitely want to make sure you have something that can help you get a more consistent TTK, and that's why I almost always use the hollow point rounds if it is available. The other one that's also very handy is the lengthened ammunition type, and that's just going to give you faster bullet velocity. And what faster bullet velocity does is it just makes your weapon feel like it's connecting those shots at those longer ranges. Sometimes you might feel like you're not getting any hit markers, and bullet velocity is going to help out a ton with that. And the fact that you get 30% bullet velocity is absolutely insane. Moving on into the rear grips now. Now this is a category where I feel like as long as it doesn't have any cons, you can pretty much pick whatever one you want. The rubber grip's cool, the tape grip's cool, aim down sight speed on the leather grip's cool. As long as you're not taking too many cons or none at all, you can always go for those attachments and they're always going to help you out without ruining the rest of your weapon build. But some that I do think that stand out above the rest is the leather grip, and the reason for that is it's going to help out your ADS a little bit without giving any cons whatsoever, and having a faster ADS on any weapon is always very handy. It means you're going to land your shots or get your shots off quicker than your opponent. And the other one I do recommend as well, and again you don't get any cons with this, is the stippled grip, and this is going to help with your recoil recovery as well as your initial accuracy and recoil. So it's going to help out a ton just overall when it comes to the handling of your weapon. So like I said, this is just an extremely useful attachment. Moving on to proficiencies now, and the proficiencies again change depending on what weapons you use, but for the most part, if you're in a specific category, they kind of stay the same. So the main one that's probably the most OP right now is the vital one. So if you have the vital proficiency on any weapon available, 100% choose this one first. It's going to mean that you're going to get an increased critical area, so you're basically going to be doing headshot damage to the upper chest, so that is ridiculous. And if you do have vital available, make sure you go for that. Focus is also very good because you're going to get flinch resistance, and there's tons of flinch in this game, way more than any other COD game. So if you do have focus available, it's also another really good option. Nerves of Steel is also very similar to that as well. So if you're getting shot at, or you're being suppressed, or you're taking damage in any way, you're going to be able to stay on target whilst you're firing at your opponent. Very similar to kind of flinch resistance essentially. Another one that's quite handy as well is Gung Ho. Now Gung Ho is quite handy if you're running auto attack sprint, you like being aggressive, and you don't want to get caught in obviously an automatic attack sprint animation when you're trying to fight enemies, and it allows you to kind of hit fire whilst you're sprinting, which is quite handy to have. So definitely a useful attachment if you don't really have many other options. So for a gun like the Sten, for example, Gung Ho would probably be my first option. And another one that's kind of broken and OP depending on what weapon you use it on is Tight Grip. Tight Grip is awesome for controlling recoil. Whilst you're firing for long periods of time, Tight Grip actually helps reduce that vertical recoil a lot. And if you've tried it on any weapon, the PPSH is probably not the best option because the recoil on that gun is ridiculously bad to begin with. But if you're using it on a kind of already kind of accurate weapon, you'll see how much this actually helps the recoil. And don't confuse this with Brace. Brace is pretty bad. Tight Grip is the better option. Fleet is another proficiency that is really handy too. It allows you to move around the map a lot quicker because you're going to get faster movement speed, and you can swap weapons quicker. So if you're struggling to swap between two different weapons that you like using, then Fleet might be a really good option for you. It's basically the way Amped works. Now for kit, the only few I would recommend using here, now this doesn't really matter too much to how your overall weapon performs, but Surplus is handy if you just want to level up your gun and get more XP. Quick is the one that I would use for the most part for the faster sprinting speeds. I feel like just movement overall, you need it inside this game. So if you can take Quick, I would recommend going for that. And Fully Loaded is another one where you can start with more ammo. So if you feel like you're running out of ammo quite a lot, then Fully Loaded is a solid option too. And last but not least, we're moving on into the optics now. So for optics, there's only kind of three I would use for multiplayer and that I would recommend, whether you're using an SMG, a LMG, an assault rifle, and even some sniper rifles. I'll still use some of these optics. So for the optics now, I would use the Model 47, which is the first one you unlock. Super clean optic, very easy to use, just a circle with a dot in the middle. You can't go wrong with it. I'd like the G16 2.5x. This is if you want a little bit more zoom. I would personally use this on most of my snipers because it actually gives you a faster ADS time on snipers. Now, on other weapons, it does slow your ADS a little bit, but on snipers, it actually makes it faster. Plus, you don't get like a ton more zoom, and you can see what's going on around you a bit easier as well. And then lastly, I would like the Slate Reflector because it's just a super clean optic once again. I just like ones that are very clean. So there we have it. Those are the 20 best attachments inside Vanguard's multiplayer. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, don't forget to sub to the channel as we're trying to reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. And click that link in the description down below and subscribe to our main channel. And thank you very much for watching.